Right. Hey everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel where we chat and talk about a current case or crime and I kind of give an original thought that I have on a case that no one's talking about. If I happen to have a original thought, I was going to do my Lizzie Borden one again, but and I was not going to touch such a hugely popular case like Gypsy Rose's. However, I'm going to have to put the Lizzie Borden one off for another week or two. I need to do these more than I'm doing them. But I'm sorry, it's been like a couple weeks since I've done my last one. But I was talking to some friends in my community, in my Rosebud community, and then I went to bed and I sat there and I thought, oh gosh. I was like, this is a huge big thought that no one is talking about, that people should be talking about. And that's what my channel is to give that perspective so that people can talk about it, especially if I think it's kind of an important perspective. Because like I said, I didn't want to, it's hard to touch something so popular, something so well talked about. And then also I was sitting there thinking, after Gypsy Rose got out, I thought, well, I know the case well, everybody knows the case well. What original thought could I add to this case? And sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to say or thought I have until I jump down that huge rabbit hole and that thought comes to me. And that's what happened with this case. Was I never even meant to make a video here because there was no original thought. And then it came to me while I was down the rabbit hole, this thought, because I was trying to look for other people talking. I really appreciated people like Swoop and Teddy One Skip and stuff. They have some things in their videos that nobody else is saying, so it's like, oh great, yeah, thank you. It's like they brought some original thoughts to this case too, because it gets tiring hearing the same thing over and over again. You know the case, but in a way not too tiring also, because you get other people's way that they tell it and how they say it, and that's interesting too, because it makes going down that rabbit hole fun. Even though you're hearing a lot of the same information, at least it's coming from different personality and different. So what can I add to this case, you ask? We're ready to jump down this tiny little rabbit hole that I made off to the side over here. Ready to jump down that. We'll jump down that for you guys. So I was watching some videos. There's some videos of Gypsy Rose's cellmates that talk about her. They brought some new stuff to the case too. You guys should go watch those YouTube videos too. I should put everything down in the comments section, all the YouTube videos I watch. Well, not all of them because I watched so many, but some of the ones that added new stuff to her case, things that I did not think about. And that's what brought the original thought to me, was because some people had said some things that I hadn't considered. And then that started putting thoughts in my mind, and just new thoughts started happening. So I was watching one of those videos, and I've seen the act twice in 1 year. Last year, when I saw it when it first came out, and then I watched it again last year. Like, that is such a hard show to watch, and I asked myself, why are you watching this the second time, Rose? This is such a hard, this isn't an entertaining show. It's not entertaining. Yeah, I watched it again because it's not entertaining, but crazy informative. And I'm glad I watched it twice because some scenes get stuck in your head. And that's what happened. Okay, so I was watching this inmate talk about how, okay, well, Hurricane Katrina came up, okay? Now, did they live in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina happened or not? Because that's now a question in my mind because of what she said. She made it sound like they may not have. But they did use this disaster. But then they said that Gypsy's medical records got ruined in the hurricane. And that's why there was no, unless that's what they said. So they couldn't pull them from at least New Orleans. But they didn't know that they could pull them from some other state or something. I don't know. So anyways, basically this is where the grift starts, that they say. So the grift starts here. Is Dede lessens Gypsy's age, gets a new birth certificate for her. There's no medical records to back up Dede's claims, so she could say whatever she wants to new doctors. And I got another perspective on that, a real life one, by the way, which I'll go into that later. So, she's telling this story from her perspective that Gypsy knew about the grift the whole time and was a willing participant. Now, I kind of thought about that. Yes, that could be a possibility. Now, Gypsy was very young when they started these lies and this grift. And now a young child, does not know the law, does not know what they're doing is illegal, and cannot think through where this is going to lead, where this is going to go. They cannot. A young child cannot foresee that. The mom can. The mom knows. Now, I don't know why Dede never thought they were going to get caught. Maybe she did anticipate Gypsy never wanting to leave her side. That was wrong of her. Because, she did leave her side, so. Maybe Dede was naive enough to say, no, Gypsy's never going to leave my side. It's okay. Gypsy's never going to leave me. This, no one will ever find out. So, they go ahead and they plan this con that they're going to pull. Because I do remember a scene where Gypsy was saying, my mom told me you need to sit there in that chair and you need to not move your legs even when, they do that test on you and they try and hit you and get the reflex test. She's like, okay, you need to not move. The mom's like, you need to not move. She's like, you need to hold perfectly still as much as you can. Because if her leg flexes out, well, Dede's got to come up for a reason for that. Well, and that's where the muscular dystrophy comes in. It depends on what stage of muscular dystrophy. Well, it depends on when you... Here's the thing, though. If you have muscular dystrophy from a kid, though, MS would have been... they're two close diseases that... there's two different onsets for muscular dystrophy. There's child onset, there's adult onset. And if muscular dystrophy is onset from birth, you will pass on around the age of 22-ish. I've had two cousins, and I know a lot of people who have passed away at the age of, in their early 20s. Like, muscular dystrophy is a very short-lived disability thing, because you don't, if it's adult onset, I mean, you'll still pass on early 40s, 50s, but you got, because you have more muscle for your body to go through, because you've built a lifetime of muscles, but it's still an early pass on, just not as, I mean, as it seems early as. But child onset muscular dystrophy, there would be no reflex in the legs. However, with MS people have moments where they can walk and where they can't walk. MS comes off and on, and it depends on the person and how far they are into MS. How much ratio to how much can they walk versus can't they walk. Is not everybody looks the same. Some people are more wheelchair bound than others. Some people, have their wheelchair or something with them in case they hit that bout. Because some people do mention, well, why do you have a wheelchair if you can walk? Well, because MS is like that. MS has its moments, because MS there's lesions on the brain, and so the way MS attacks is a little bit differently. At one point they thought I had MS and they were looking for lesions on the brain, because I have bouts where my legs get weak, especially in my late stages of pregnancy. I can't walk. Holy crap. I always thought when I got to adulthood I might end up wheelchair bound because the way things were going, but it turned out I did not have MS, and they have no idea what's going on with my legs. So anyways, let's get rolling with this rabbit hole I went down. I'll explain the road to you so that you can see what I saw. So she was saying, okay, so Gypsy's part of this grift. But, so, maybe, this might explain to you everything, if she was. So, but like I said, a child cannot foresee that this is illegal, that this is wrong, that you guys are going to get all this free stuff, but it has a penalty to it. Okay? So I was watching that, and all of a sudden I saw in my mind a scene from the act play in my head. It was that scene where Dede takes legally 18-year-old Gypsy, but she's telling Gypsy, you're only 14. She takes 18-year-old Gypsy to the lawyer. Well, she's explaining first to Gypsy why they got to go to the lawyer. She's laying in bed because of how sick she is, and she's sitting there explaining to Gypsy, we got to go to the lawyer because we've done wrong, and if we don't keep up this charade, all of this, we're going to lose the house, we're going to end up paying back all this money, everything people have given to us. And she's explaining to Gypsy. And that kind of coincided with the thought that maybe Gypsy knew about it from the beginning. Because why would the mom be explaining this? Why? Unless Gypsy knew about it. But maybe she didn't, too. I don't take either side, but I do have a thought that makes me kind of sway to one side. So, and then she takes her to the lawyer. Next scene you see is they're at the lawyer's, and the lawyer's asking Gypsy questions, and you can see the Gypsy's like, oh crap, I gotta fake these questions. She's like, I can't answer as smartly as a smart person like me would answer. She's like, I gotta be like, I call my mom. I rely on my mom. And so you could see that right here, Gypsy is being a participant in the lies purposely right here. Because she needs to, or there's so much penalty, so much problems. But they do talk about how Gypsy did run away with Dan. Now, how did the mom explain to Gypsy why she can't run away when they got home? I bet once again it was like explaining to the lawyer thing. You get up, you get out of that wheelchair, you run away. And all of a sudden, while this scene of the act was playing in my head, I've also watched Pretty Little Liars. Don't ask me why I watched that show. But that intro song. Now the intro song is not like the original. It's the original with one extra word added in. They use the word 3 instead of 2 because there's 4 people in this or something like this. So anyways, the intro song, if you've never heard the intro song to Pretty Little Liars, goes, 2 can keep a secret if one is, well, unalive. And all of a sudden that hit me. That's the why. That's the why. Right now, what do we know about Gypsy's case? We know everything Gypsy's telling us. We know everything she says. Now, had Gypsy called up Rod, because everybody's like, why? Your dad's a good guy. Call Rod. Rod would swoop you away. Gypsy could have called Rod and said, pick me up in the middle of the night, don't ask questions, and walked out to Rod's car and then said, just drive, and explained why she's walking and explained everything to Rod. She could have grabbed her suitcase, got in Rod's car and said, just start driving. And she could have said, just drive, Dad, just drive, and I'll explain. And she could have threw this whole story out at him. However, what would Dede's side of the story been? Now, Dede wouldn't be unalived right now, but she would most certainly be in prison and owing a lot of money back to these charities. These charities would want their money back, and they would be famous, but in a negative way, a very, very bad way. Now, Gypsy at this point, she's not a child anymore. She's in her early 20s. She understands the law now. She probably even Googled it. She knows where these kind of laws end you up in. However, somebody also stated, I don't think Gypsy thought she was ever going to see jail if Nick went down for it. Nick would go to prison, but Gypsy would never see prison. And you can see it by the interview. She tried to play off the innocent one as the interviewer was like, well, Nick came and just picked me up. I'm running away with Nick. My mom kicked me out. We had a fight. And she tries to start saying other ways Dede could have been unalived. By like self-cancellation and other things. And so, but the cop's not having any of that bullshit. He's like, no, you're gonna tell me the truth. So right now we have a crime that has happened, possibly perpetrated by both of them. But Gypsy was young. How old was she when the crime started? So do we know how punishable she is? Did she know about it when she was a full-blown adult at 18? They were perpetrating this crime. So this crime, nobody's serving jail time for this crime. Why? Because the major perpetrator of the crime is not here with us. She's gone. This crime is being brushed by the wayside. It's being mentioned touched on a little bit, but blown away basically. Because, okay, Gypsy, you were part of the unaliving. Go. She did her time. She's out. She's living her best life. And here we go. We got her side of the story. We're missing a side of this story. Now, now are we saying that maybe Dede could have been envious and jealous of Gypsy and maybe possibly tried to, when one person's drowning, they'll take you down with them, is what they say. So as Dede is drowning in all this, facing all the lies and deceit. So when she told Nick, the only way I can leave with you is if my mother's gone, and that was possibly in a way the truth. Because once Dede was gone, the narrative changed to Gypsy's narrative. The narrative is now spun by Gypsy. Completely, 100%, totally. And she is seen as the victim 100%, completely, totally. And that's why she only served 8 years. And so, where would she be today had she just called up Rod and ran away with Rod? Now, I bet Rod would have tried to protect her and help her get a lawyer and fight going down and sinking with Dede. But it depends on the police and the prosecution, who they want to prosecute. Do they feel like they only need to prosecute the mom? And that Gypsy is I bet that's not what Dede told Gypsy it was going to happen, though. I bet she said, you're going down just as hard as I am. And I didn't feel like looking up the Missouri laws and statistics on this, but for all of this counts of fraud, because I would have to sit there and think of every count of fraud the house would be taken away, the money, all of that, the vacations, the concerts, all of that was fraud. How many counts of fraud would they be facing? And that is going to be a lot of prison time, because there's a lot of prison time just hanging on one count of fraud. Because I'm not in Missouri, so I semi-know the law in my state, but not a lot. But, I mean, people spend a lot of time in prison for fraud. They might even get up to almost life or close to it, with all the counts they're going to face, depending upon consecutively and concurrently also. The everybody's got to decide, do they face all these counts? Do they get it, run it together or run it separately, And so there's all of this questions up in the air. However, without the main perpetrator of the fraud, the crime gets flushed, so to say, with Dede. A new crime has come up, and it has been paid for by one and is currently still being paid for by another. I am interested to hear on March 1st what Nick has to say. I watched those extra interview videos that they had of Nick, where they leave him alone and he talks to himself. And I'm surprised he brings up Dan. But then again, let's look at Gypsy's current husband. 10 days before their wedding, because Gypsy was engaged to one other man in prison before Ryan. And Ryan said, I don't want you ever talking to him again. However, Ryan was almost ready to call off the wedding 10 days prior to the wedding because Gypsy wouldn't stop talking to him. Now, Gypsy doesn't leave her exes alone for a long time until she doesn't need him anymore. I think she is also talking to Nick, too. I think that's why Nick's finally talking, because I think Dede has dropped her ex, Nick, Dan, everybody now. And Dan even showed up at Nick's hearing. So Dan is helping Nick out because he knows how manipulative Gypsy is. But see, Dan was an adult, a full-blown adult with no mental illness. Gypsy could not. Because Dan's idea was the runaway idea, which didn't work. But that's also because there was that familiar connection, and she dropped her phone, and, well, she made it too easy for her mom to find her. On purpose or on accident? Because dropping a phone, that's weird. You're texting somebody. She just, try to stuff it in her backpack and it drops on the floor and she runs out or something? Because you're texting somebody, I'm on my way. I'm getting a ride to the hospital now. I'm knocking on a neighbor's door. I'll be there. You don't drop the phone. So that's kind of weird too, that the phone was left behind for the mom to even go through. So that's weird in itself too. So I am looking forward to, maybe Nick's ready to tell us, because Nick's the only other one that's got a different side to this story. Because he's still here, but she got him locked away. Where I think Gypsy thought, hey, if he's locked away, he can't tell his side of the story. And so I'm very interested in, now that he's seen that Gypsy's no longer writing him, she's happily married, free, maybe he's finally ready to talk. Great. I want to hear it. I'm excited for March 1st, actually. Now, I got some real life experience to throw in here. People ask about the medical records. Why would a doctor diagnose something that's not true, especially, sorry, my throat is kind of clogged today, especially when all the test results don't prove it? Why? Well, when the cops wanted to take my children out of the home, they lied to the doctors about the condition of the home and the condition they were living in. They made our case look like a very familiar, popular case, so that the doctors would diagnose my children with malnutrition. And so they were diagnosed with malnutrition and sent to the hospital, and the tests were run. And the tests came out clean, negative. They had all their vitamins, minerals, everything. No refeeding syndrome. They were released from the hospital because there was nothing wrong with them. However, the diagnosis still stands. Why? Well, I asked my oldest son that. And he said, Mom, well, there's other ways that there could be malnutrition, even though the tests are not saying it. Well, no, the tests say there's no malnutrition. And so they're still holding the kids on that notion that there's malnutrition. And I don't know how they keep holding them on this when you can throw up nobody listens to the test results. You could throw up the test results. No, well, the only person listening is my lawyer. That's it. Is the only person listening to these test results. And she also used to be a dietitian, so she can actually understand the test results. So that's a bonus win-win for me, that I don't have to convince my lawyer. She has the experience in this area. Plus, I mean, I'm not the first malnutrition case to come across her desk. So, um, she knows what malnutrition looks like. It doesn't matter. As long as you got it, as long as you got somebody very persistent, very sure of themselves that XX and X is going on, and that's got to equal that. 1 plus 1, this 1 is going on, plus this 1 equals that 2. As long as they're insistent that this is the math, the doctor has to end the equation correctly. The doctor can't say no, 1 plus 1 is equaling 0, then it's 0, guys. I'm sorry, I don't know how you're getting your math. The doctors are just human beings. They never stand up to patients and say, hey, it's 0. Redo your math or something. Or consider that the person is lying to them. Like, doctors, I don't know why they just don't consider that maybe they're being lied to when the test results come out negative. Because the doctors should have taught. The doctors never spoke to me and my husband. And I wondered why the whole 3-day visit my kids were in there. Because we didn't find out that the doctors were lied to until the day my children were being released. And it was too late. The discharge papers had been drawn up. They were being discharged. I went on the computer to go check the discharge papers because I found out that I forgot that my paperwork, because we're with an IHC insurance or with an IHC hospital, that all my IHC documents are automatically uploaded to my IHC file. And so I not only went through all the discharge papers, but I decided to go backwards and go through all the intake papers. And when I saw the intake papers and the intake forms and the intake story, boom, I threw oh gosh, I called my husband in the room immediately and said the doctors were lied to. That's what happened. That's why they kept looking for malnutrition when all the tests were negative, and all because the DCFS kept calling the doctor a couple times a day, making sure the malnutrition charge still stood. They were on the phones with the doctors constantly to make sure that that diagnosis, and I even have an email from that DCFS officer that says, Rose, you won't go to prison unless you interfere with what's going on at the hospital. I was threatened to not interfere with the doctors. I was told that the cops would come and arrest me, even though the kids were legally mine at this point, and I had a legal right to step in. I was told that I would be arrested if I stepped in, and that should have clued me into something was going on, but it didn't. Not until I found out that I could see the paperwork on the internet, and then I was like, hey, something's not right in my kids' case. So I went through all their lab results, which I don't know how to read, but still went through them just to make sure they did say negative. And I went through all their lab results, and I went through all their paperwork over the whole week long and saw the things that were being said and how the doctors were being lied to. And now I know why the malnutrition diagnosis still stands. But they have them to a point where they're not going to listen to me and my husband right now. There's this point right now where nobody's going to listen to us. And so, yeah, you can get the doctors to this point where they're not going to listen to truth. They're not going to listen to honesty. I would love to see somebody interview these doctors going, how do you feel now that it's 100% proof that you gave a wrong diagnosis? Even, and especially to the doctors that argue was thinking factitious disorder imposed on another. She was already thinking that. It's like, I wonder how she feels now that she found out, yes, I was right, but you didn't do enough. She's probably, hopefully, thinking I should have done more. I should have done more, but it's not but I think they did call DCFS, but I mean, of course, people are, when people are good at lying, they're good at lying and good at threatening and coercing. And I got a bunch of text messages from DCFS where we even brought him to court and showed I was I was threatened, coerced, manipulated. And that's how they got a hold of my children, was through all these threats, manipulation, and coercion, that they kept me back there and silent and too afraid to step forward and do something, that I'd be arrested if I did anything. Because, yeah, two kids with autism. That's going to bring in the state a lot of money. They got a hold of 2 kids with autism. Now, one other thing I want to talk to people about autism, that I've been seeing people ask questions about autism, because not many people know a lot about autism, don't have somebody in their family with autism, they haven't gone to the doctors, learned about autism. Because everybody's wondering, well, is Nick autistic? Does he have DID? Does he have this? Does he have that? Blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't know if I have autism. I'm undiagnosed. I might see about getting diagnosed. I feel weird about being an adult and going to get a diagnosis. But my brother has it, my dad has it, my daughter has it, and I got one son that's diagnosed, one son that's possibly undiagnosed. So I might have 3 kids with it, and it probably stems from me, because nobody else in our family has autistic kids. All my siblings have had kids. All my husband's siblings have had kids. The autism in the family is coming through me. So, however, I do have bipolar. But that doesn't cancel out autism. Most people don't know that. Autism usually comes coupled or even tripled with something else, like anxiety, depression, bipolar, DID, schizophrenia, stuff like that. Autism is never alone. It's never just a one-time, one-word, one-type diagnosis. Here you go, you're autistic, you're somewhere on the scale, here you go, that's you. There's always some underlying factors in there too. So if you have stuff like bipolar, but you act a little bit differently, not like the norm, and you seem to be outside of the norm and not get the norm and the sarcasm and stuff like that, you may also want to get checked out for autism, because bipolar doesn't do that to you. Bipolar doesn't keep you from being the technical norm or seeing the norm or whatever, you might want to go get checked out for autism also, because autism, it's hard, because you feel perfectly fine, you know who you are, you know your personality, you know who you are, but it's slightly just a little bit different than most of the world, that you don't function as most of the world, and you don't think as most of the world thinks, and it's so crazy. Because you're like, I feel like I'm just fine. I'm fine. Can't this be a norm? You feel like, can't this be a norm? Because I feel fine. I am a person with a personality and a sense of humor and interests. It's like, I'm fine. But then everybody tells you you're not. But you're like, no, I am. I'm fine. So, hopefully you guys have liked where I've touched down on this video, my thoughts I've had going down this rabbit hole, this tiny other little rabbit hole I've dug for you guys to go down and say, okay, these things can happen, by the way. And maybe this is why the unaliving had to happen, because Gypsy had to get rid of her Dede's narrative. So she didn't go down for the crime that she started with her mom that she didn't know the full repercussions of. And no young person would know either. And that's how Gypsy knew how to. She needed somebody with a young mentality to manipulate, because she knows how young people can be manipulated. She needed somebody vulnerable. She knew how to look out the vulnerable. I'm wondering what Nick put on his profile to make Gypsy talk to him. Did he openly talk about his autism on his profile and say, I have autism? And that's what first led her to starting that first conversation with Nick. Because she said, okay, here's some vulnerability. Maybe she even Googled vulnerable disorders and found out that people with autism are very vulnerable. Very vulnerable. I've seen my brother with Asperger's get manipulated over and over and over again by family members, by friends, by lots of people. And his mind to this day is shaped by that, and he's really stuck in that, and it's really hard to get him to change his mind now, because he's been just manipulated so much. And so I've watched my own poor brother get manipulated, and it's sad, because it's taken him down some bad, hard roads. And that's why I like crime and psychology, because I tried to tell my brother one time, because I saw the manipulation coming. I saw the road he was about to head down. But I was in Arizona at the time, and my family's in Utah, and I'm 10 hours away, and I was really helpless at that time. It was before cell phones were so popular that everybody had one, because my brother didn't have a cell phone and stuff at the time. Cell phones were becoming popular, where almost everybody had one, but not everybody, because we just finally gotten away from that cell phone period time where you had to pay for text and all of that. So more people were starting to get cell phones when you didn't have to pay per text and stuff. Because when cell phones first started, one reason why everybody didn't have one was you don't want to pay 10 cents every time you want to text somebody, and you're sitting there texting all night long. Yeah, $500 later. So anyways, I hope you like where I've brought you in this side rabbit hole, and maybe people will, start talking about it and see that kind of perspective. Because I thought maybe it was important to talk about and bring to it, like I said, because I think Dede needed to kill her mom's narrative, and I thought, and she probably thought no trouble or harm would come to her, because she was going to try and carry on the lies and the grifts to the cop, but she met a cop that wasn't taking no BS. That cop was like, no, just stop now. It's like, just stop now. She's never come up in front of somebody who's literally told her and her mom that. Stop now, we know you're faking it. This is her first time in her life she's found somebody who said, no, stop now. You're done. I'm not doing this. You're done. You're done. I'm not believing a word you say. I'll know when you tell me the truth. Now that's good and bad of cops. And I'm going to go into another video, not my Lizzie Borden one, but the one after that. I have an idea of, I'm going to talk more about our justice system and the way it is. So, and that pertains to the Danny Masterson case. So I'm going to talk about that. I need to start making these YouTube videos, because there are things I want to talk about. Like I said, Lizzie Borden, Danny Masterson. I want to touch down on those cases. Some old ones, some new ones. But here's this case for you that I wasn't going to touch on, but I felt, after thinking about it all night long, I felt like I needed to do it. I felt like, no, you got to touch down on this case. You got to tell what you saw in your mind and what your thoughts were, and you got to share that and get it out there. So here it is, me getting that out there. Thank you guys. Love you guys. Love my community. I do a lot of just casual games and chatting on with my Rosebud community and Twitch. If you ever want to also look me up, just go look up Talk with Rose over there too. You can hop in, come casually chat with me and my community, my wonderful mods and everybody I have in there, and come say hi to us and chat with us, and just come have some game fun with us. Over here on my YouTube channel, I am making it my more serious channel, not doing gaming videos anymore. Gonna do serious subjects, gonna get a little more serious and chatty with you guys. Hopefully someday we'll get a community over here that wants to chat. Well, oh, Neha said hi. I didn't see that. Sorry. Hey, Neha. Shit, I'm failing at the chat part. I shouldn't say that word. That's a bad word. Oops. And so, because I'm supposed to be chatting while also answering your questions while telling my side. Because I want this to also come into a live chat sometime and be like, yeah, let's live chat these crimes and throw out those opinions, and let's talk about this. Let's have a nice little debate here. Let's bring some ideas to the plate. Say what's in your mind that nobody else is saying. That nobody else don't go. I go to videos and I hope somebody else says it, and that's what this channel's for. I'm going to videos and I'm hoping somebody else says it, and if they're not saying it, like I appreciated Swoop talking about. She showed how Gypsy's still manipulating her current husband, Ryan. Oh my gosh, you guys got to go see that video. I did not know that Gypsy. I mean, people are saying she's being the manipulator, but some proof has finally been shown. It's there. And somebody did make a YouTube video about it. So go swoop on in and say hi to her and go see what that is. Maybe I'll answer it later if you guys ask me, but maybe I'll leave it up in the air so you guys can go see what I'm talking about, because it's crazy. There is proof of the manipulation, which got me to start swaying to that side that, oh, she knows how to manipulate. Oh, she does. She knows how to manipulate, and she's doing it. All right. Well, sorry, Neha. I meant to say hi. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this. And I will see you guys later. Come look me up and we'll chat. Chat with me. Talk with me. Stay safe. Stay warm. Stay happy. Stay loved, you guys. And we'll see you again.